How long does it take for NVC, National Visa Center, to schedule your interview? And as most lawyers will respond to a question like is, it depends. In this scenario, it depends on the consulate or embassy because of the pandemic and everything. And of course, less personnel working at each post. The National Visa Center doesn't just documentary qualify and then just send it to the particular post. What they do is they documentary qualify it after you upload all those documents, mostly financial related, and a police certificate to clear your record or to show your record. It could be sitting there for a couple months, maybe 6 months. Fortunately, we haven't seen it. Our case experience has not been as long as 6 months. Even one we have in South Africa that just got documentary qualified, and maybe 3 weeks later got scheduled for an interview. So that was Johannesburg, South Africa is one example. But yeah, it just depends. Like if you're talking about Islamabad and Pakistan, it's definitely going to take a lot longer. But that's just one issue the government has. Another one that's more of a concern is actually, let's say you have the interview and then you're still waiting after that for the actual visa. Sometimes you could be waiting 2 months, 6 months, but it just depends on the consulate, okay? In general, worldwide, most people don't have to wait that long, but some people will say, oh, I got this 221G and my case is stuck. Of course, many people respond to it, provide those documents requested or the DS 5535 the same day or the next day, and they still don't give you an update what's going on. So you don't want to bug them too much, but at least once a month, you can submit an inquiry. Now, if they told you in advance, oh, wait 90 days, wait 60 days, because they have to go do what they claim to do, background security check, which is frustrating. You would think they just do that beforehand. So they're not that organized, okay? But we do file lawsuits in many different scenarios, but including that if you're outside America waiting. Just depends on the timing. Not every situation we can help with. We'll let you know, but the best way is you can ask down here below in the comments section, ask me here, or you can schedule a consultation. The other thing to know is there's a recent situation. We've been able to get some interviews scheduled much more quickly, I guess you could say. One, we requested an expedite request because unfortunately the U.S. citizen petitioner, the spouse had she gave birth, but there were some complications after the fact. So that was a good, valid reason. Medical concerns was a valid reason to share with National Visa Center, which also could be shared with USCIS. So we submitted expedite requests for both, and that was for Lagos, Nigeria. So we definitely got that going. It was scheduled maybe about 1 or 2 weeks after our request. So it's not a guarantee, but it's worth a shot. If they allow that right now. So it's just one other way for the government to, I guess you could say, prioritize cases. But if you don't ask, you don't know. All right. If you get denied the expedite request, doesn't mean they're going to put you even further back. There's been some scenarios, people coming up, for example, that a person got detained, for example, likely because there's some kind of criminal issue, which some people forget, but drinking and driving is a crime in all 50 states of America. And even if you have 1 beer, 2 beers, alcohol affects people, different sizes, body sizes, could affect someone much sooner than others. So, but these days, it's easier to say now, but use Uber, use Lyft, or your regular local taxi company when you're drinking and before you go and drive. It's just not worth it. Okay, so we had a scenario, someone called and they got detained and they're now in ICE custody, and that person is a resident. No, in a situation where you're not eligible to become a citizen quite yet, right? And this person would have to file after 5 years in general, after getting resident status. But his spouse doesn't have any status. It's kind of, you might think, well, shouldn't the focus be on him only because he's detained? Yes. But in this situation, we really think far out in the future if possible, if for some reason he was order removed, at least before he gets order removed, we start the process for filing a petition for his wife. Because with court cases, in general, there's thousands of cases across America in these courts. It could take a long time. So in the meantime, might as well file for a petition on behalf of his wife because she doesn't have any status. So in the future, that the husband who is resident right now gets order removed, then who knows? Maybe she could, if she gets status just in time, then she can file for him in the future. So it's kind of like full circle. All right. So that just came across our desk a couple days ago. So that normally that's not often the case, but because usually the person who that we have to help has no status. This person has resident status. So one thing we look at is 42B, cancellation removal for non-legal permanent residents. Of course, making sure they've been living here for a certain amount of time. But yeah, just want to recap some problems that we've received that some people have mentioned. Is they filed their case with or without a lawyer, and the 485 application is still pending, and it could have been 1 year, 2 years, and then the officer told them, I think in one scenario, the officer told them that they had to recommended them to withdraw their application. That's not so much a problem. The problem is about, for example, especially if you have a case that's a country where there's so many different ways to get divorced, for example. Like one example is in Nigeria. There's so many different ways to get divorced. So it can confuse USCIS. And actually, you want to rely on the State Department website. They have a table. You just click for your specific country, and they have a list of entities, essentially, government offices that can provide that they recognize the divorce order, for example. Because in Nigeria, for example, there are several ways to get married, but also to get divorced. And I know with the SARS protest a couple years ago, there was, fires in government buildings, so that affected the ability for getting the accurate information. And so come to find out, there could be, and you wouldn't know, maybe the government office in Nigeria that issues out these divorce certificates, the clerk maybe put the wrong case number. So if somehow the USCIS is able to check that and they see, oh, this one doesn't pop up in the online system, or they called in and didn't pop up, that's a problem, right? But USCIS is not going to do the further investigation on your behalf to see if there's a way to help you, right? So you have to stay on top of it. If you hear in the news that your particular country has issues like that, like a protest, and there's arson going on, there's fire in government buildings, you want to double check that. I mean, arson was just an extra unfortunate situation, but even clerks could get things wrong. That happens in the US. I had to help fix a client's criminal document, and when I researched it online, it was the wrong crime. It was the wrong classification. It was supposed to be Class B misdemeanor, but they had it Class A. So that's the extra due diligence that we do on our side, for example. But if you're filing on your own, you want to make sure that your decree is legit. And it probably is 99.9% of it, but maybe the case number is wrong. So you just want to make sure, because I know a lot of y'all have to depend on a lawyer or another professional service in your country. So you may just assume that whatever they give you is correct. But before you file your case, with USCIS, you just want to make sure, because we have several people that get denied and they claim, okay, you misrepresented to USCIS for immigration benefit, meaning the green card, and then you have to file a waiver. So someone that hired us after the fact, their waiver got denied. Unfortunately, when you file a waiver application, 601A or 601, you need to admit that you did something wrong. And I know it's difficult for people to do that when in this situation, they didn't do anything wrong. They did not intentionally misrepresent the government or lie, or so essentially, so we have to file 290B, motion to reconsider, motion to reopen, but also we're considering to refile the entire case, because 290B, by the way, there is no processing timetable. Okay, there's no timetable on that online on the USCIS.gov website. So that's why you may want to consider refiling 485 in general if you're in this kind of situation. But hopefully you don't have to be that in a situation. Okay.